Hello, it is Bonnie Southgate, hEDS Rehab here. I am really excited today to bring you a presentation on breathing. Breathing is so important, and it really is something that as all of us with hypermobility syndromes can do easily at home and help improve things in our own bodies. So I'm going to share the screen now. So breathing, the act of controlled breathing to benefit health, has been practiced for many thousands of years by Eastern cultures. So we know that in yoga, they practice breathing, and a lot of people love their yoga because of this. Slowing breath and focusing on diaphragmatic breathing is not a new idea. The question is how and why it works and how we can use it to help ourselves. So the diaphragm is considered to be the main muscle for respiration. So the diaphragm is like it looks like a big mushroom, and it sits underneath our lungs and just above all of our organs. And when it contracts, it comes up on the side and it pushes down, and it pushes the abdominal contents down. And it's quite an amazing thing. So we also have what we call accessory muscles, the external and internal intercostals, and those are in between your ribs. And then we have something called the sternocleidomastoid, which runs from your ear down into your collarbones, and then scalenes, which are just to the side of that, which make up what is known as the respiratory pump. The external intercostals help with lifting of the ribs, and the diaphragm contracts, flattening out, descending, creating space for the lungs to fill up with air, as well as creating a vacuum effect, sucking air into the lungs. So what I have here is this amazing slide looking at breathing. And what you're looking at now is organs. So you've got the heart there, and you've got the liver and all the organs below. And we can't see the muscles, we're just seeing the organs here. But what I want you to look at is how the organs descend on the inhalation. So the ribs, those bones, will move up, and how it impacts the heart. And if you look at the heart and you look at the arteries going up into the neck, you can see how it's all influenced by how we breathe. So I'm just going to turn this on now, and it comes down, and you can see it pulls the heart. And this one is a really big breath, and look at all of that going on there. So it's an amazing video because it shows you how connected we are, and how the heart actually attaches to the top of the diaphragm, and how the organs everything is connected through the fascia and the tissues. So it's really amazing. Right, so that was an amazing video. So our chemoreceptors influence the rate at which we breathe and our heart rate. They monitor how much oxygen we have in our blood, and then decide how fast we need to breathe to keep our oxygen levels good. While our baroreceptors are monitoring our blood pressure. Together they keep homeostasis. They keep us ticking over nicely. When our breathing is slower and the muscles are more relaxed, the tidal volume tends to be larger. As you saw in the short video, the larger breath had a larger impact on the heart, where there was a greater pull on it. The baroreceptors monitor pressure through that stretch. So the deeper and longer the breath, the more they receive signals that there is volume in the system. So that's really important for those of us with POTS or dysautonomia. So new research has looked at the role of the heart and the diaphragm and their influence on the different systems. When the heart contracts, it is able to influence the brain. Now, this is amazing. I thought this was amazing when I found this out. By moving it in a cuddle or downwards towards our tailbone or feet direction, directly affecting the flow of cerebrospinal fluid. So this is the fluid around the brain. The diaphragm is also able to influence this on exhalation. The brain is pulled in that downward caudal direction on inhalation, and then the brain returns to its original position. So while the heart helps to move the cerebral spinal fluid faster, the diaphragm influences the quantity of the cerebral spinal fluid moved. So this is really interesting. The contraction of the heart also has an influence on the optic nerve. Who would have guessed? So our eyes are also really influenced by our breathing, because the heart is influenced by the breathing, and then the heart influences the optic nerve. The head of the nerve moves with our heart. So when the heart contracts, the optic nerve is stretched. The constant stretching helps to create substances that improve vascular supply to the nerve. So you can imagine, as someone with a hypermobility issue, that everything is stretchier. So it may be that we have to make more effort in taking some bigger breaths in order to actually get enough stretch to impact up the chain, because everything will stretch a bit more. There's also a relationship to the whole system and nasal breathing. So it's best if someone can inhale through their nose. This stimulates something called the glossopharyngeal nerve, which has a connection with the vagus nerve and results in inhibition of the sympathetic tone and vasodilation. Another way it helps to calm the system is by slowing the breath down. So heart regulation and good diaphragmatic breath can be important to someone with dysautonomia, stress, or pain. Breathing along with good, strong heart, a good strong heart, improves many functions of the body. And the better it's all functioning, the happier our nervous system is. So how shall we breathe? Studies looking at breathing, or breaths per minute, said that a normal breathing pattern is anywhere from 10 to 20 breaths per minute to be beneficial. They did research looking at 4 to 10 breaths per minute, which was considered slow breathing. This is only beneficial if the tidal volume can be increased. The alveoli need to be able to open and stretch to be of benefit. So it's you're breathing into the upper chest. If you're breathing into your upper chest, you're only feeling the top of the lungs. It's not going to have the same beneficial response. And this is because your alveoli are lower down in your lungs. To allow this to happen, the pelvic floor must not be held, or the diaphragm can't descend. So if you're holding that pelvic floor and you're holding your lower belly when you take a breath in, your lungs cannot fully inflate and you don't get the same benefits. So exhalation is generally more passive, or it should be passive if you're using your diaphragm, because it then helps that air to come out of the lungs. The diaphragm rises back up. The internal intercostal muscles help to bring the ribs back into place, so that there isn't a lot of effort in this exhalation. So when breathing effort is increased, the expiratory muscles become more active, including the abdominal muscles, which pull the abdominal wall inwards, forcing the diaphragm up, helping to deflate the lungs. When you're in a state of sympathetic overdrive, the breath tends to get shorter and less deep, recruiting more of the accessory muscles, which are up top and in your neck, and less of the diaphragm. So breathing can be helpful to relax us, reduce anxiety, and help bring function to our stabilizing muscles of the torso. There was a lot of emphasis on how to breathe, but initially it is important not to worry too much about how you breathe, but to start by just slowing the breath down, with the emphasis on a slow exhalation. Try exhaling twice as long as the time it takes to inhale. The inhalation stimulates the sympathetic, and the exhalation promotes the parasympathetic. So what we're going to do is look at a breathing exercise. Now, this is not entirely about just breathing with your diaphragm, but this is an exercise of awareness, really to start us thinking about how we breathe and then how we might be able to improve it. So let's start with breathing into the upper chest. If you inhale through your nose, can you feel your collarbones and upper ribs lift? So if you put your hands there, that'll help you to know. So to try that a couple times and just see if those upper ribs can lift and the clavicles lift up and down. So that's not a bad thing if they do, even if it's more of an accessory breathing, because we need all these things to be able to move. So it's not right and it's not wrong, just an observation. Then let's breathe into the ribs under the armpits. So if you I like to take my thumbs under my armpits very lightly. If they dislocate, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you take your hands across your chest and put your fingers there instead. So when you breathe in, do these ribs lift? They might feel like they go sideways, or they might lift up, or do they feel squeezy and tight? So each time you do this, I want you to try and breathe in through your nose. Do they lift up? And so there, again, there's no right or wrong. We're exploring where we can breathe, where are we tight, where are we free to move. Do the same thing now. Let's move down the chain. So we just move our fingertips down, or our thumbs down the chain, feeling where our ribs move when we inhale through our nose. Thinking about that exhale being twice as long, slowing the breath down as we breathe out. The ribs should feel like they come back down. Just keep that going on, moving your hands down your ribs. Inhale through your nose. Breathing out slowly, observing the breath. Where is it easy? Where is it hard? Is the breath all in the front or all in the back? Finally, let's see if you can breathe into your abdomen. So does your belly move when you inhale? Does it go out or does it go in? So if we're breathing with our diaphragm, you'll feel not a huge thing, but an expansion of the abdomen. Has the pelvic floor relaxed? I don't want you to bear down. That's important. This is not about bearing down, but it's just about relaxing on the inhalation. It's difficult to breathe from the diaphragm if the lower belly and the pelvic floor are held. So you need to really think about relaxing that bit. And also, you know, a lot of us hold tension in our backs and the thoracics. And so really making sure that we relax there as we try and inhale through our nose. If it's difficult to lift the clavicle and the upper ribs, then start there with breathing exercises. And it can be a really good, safe way to start to exercise your neck flexors. So a lot of times we're told never to breathe there, but sometimes people with cranial cervical instability can't actually move those upper ribs and clavicles, and they don't get the neck flexors working very easily. So that can be a nice way to start with that. If you're somebody who holds your pelvic floor and your lower abdomen, you might find that your diaphragm struggles to function, so that the emphasis for you might be more on restoring movement in the lower area and the lower ribs and getting that diaphragm able to move. So really, wherever you struggle to send the air is where I would say your homework is. All of these areas should move and function. So this is just an exercise. Don't worry about it when you don't do the exercise. Don't start getting stressed about your breathing, because that's not going to be beneficial. So practice your breathing. Practice the inhale and the exhale, slowing it all down, making your exhale twice as long as your inhale. If you can get that breath down, we know that's going to be super beneficial to everything. And if you want, try the breathing in all the different areas. So we're going to finish looking at that amazing video again, looking at all the things that our breathing helps to function. Right. So thank you so much for listening and practicing your breathing. I hope you found this beneficial. If you did, then subscribe to my YouTube channel and give me some feedback in the comments. And I look forward to enjoying other bits of information with you in the future. It's Bonnie Southgate, hEDS Rehab.